In a poor city where life is extremely harsh and people can't find food or even anything edible, it feels like they're living in a desert. This situation drives a leader named Dego to a place called Hell's Hall. There, an old man advises Dego to abandon his dark thoughts, warning him that what he's about to do is wrong and has unimaginable consequences. But Dego retorts, saying that nothing could be worse than what they're enduring now, as they're already living in hell. The old man keeps trying to persuade Dego, but Dego refuses to listen and kills him, seeing him as an obstacle in his path. Dego then stands before a wall marked with strange symbols, addressing the demons and declaring that he wants to make a deal with them. He offers them whatever they desire in exchange for delivering him and his people from the suffering and poverty they are experiencing. Moments later, lightning strikes the place, marking Dago's face. Meanwhile, back at home, Dago's wife is having a difficult childbirth. After Dego finishes what he was doing, he returns home to check on his wife. Upon entering, the midwife stops him, telling him not to look at the baby just yet. Dego, surprised and unconcerned by her warning, insists on seeing his child, only to find something shocking. The baby is born without eyes, ears, or even limbs, yet is somehow alive. Dego stares at the child for a moment before laughing, recalling his words in Hell's Hall when he made the deal with the demons, offering them whatever they wanted. Now, it's clear the demons have fulfilled his wish by taking his son. Dego then tells his wife to forget about the child and prepare to have another to carry his name. He orders the midwife to get rid of the baby. Dago's wife pleads to keep the child, but he refuses, believing it's the price demanded by the demons. The woman takes the baby to a river to drown him, but can't bring herself to do it out of pity. Instead, she places him on a small boat, hoping someone will find and save him, which is exactly what happens. The boat reaches another town. Time passes, and the child remains motionless like a lifeless body until a man named Jukai finds him. Feeling sympathy for the child, Jukai fits him with artificial limbs, eyes, and ears, transforming him into something resembling a statue with a frozen, expressionless face. Years later in the same city, we meet another boy named Doro, who sells goods to people on the streets. One day, 3 huge, intimidating men confront him, accusing him of stealing their goods and selling them as his own. Doro denies it, challenging them to prove he's a thief. Infuriated, the men attack him. Doro runs, heading toward the river, thinking they won't follow him there. He finds a small dog and plays with it, growing attached. But the 3 men show up at the river, spot Doro, and assault him, beating him so badly that there isn't a part of his body left unbruised. As they prepare to leave, tired of hitting him, Doro provokes them again, throwing stones at them. Angered, they grab him, shoving his face into the river to drown him. At this moment, our protagonist, Hyakkimaru, appears, standing on the bridge above. The men stop and stare at his strange, statue-like appearance. Hyakkimaru focuses on something unseen to the men. They wonder what he's looking at, as Hyakkimaru, who is blind, can sense and visualize things as if he sees them. It turns out he's staring at a monster emerging from the water. The monster attacks everyone present, devouring them one by one. When the monster turns to Doro, Hyakkimaru intervenes, fighting and defeating it, saving Doro. Doro, stunned by his rescue and amazed by the mysterious figure, can't believe what he's witnessing. After killing the monster, Hyakkimaru walks away, but Doro follows him, talking endlessly even though Hyakkimaru neither hears nor sees him. Doro observes Hyakkimaru's movements and confirms that he's deaf and mute, though he's puzzled about Hyakkimaru's ability to kill the monster despite being blind. As they travel together, Hyakkimaru searches for food, catching raw fish to eat. Doro stops him, teaching him how to grill it. Hyakkimaru enjoys the meal and Doro, taking advantage of the situation, proposes working together, promising they could become rich if Hyakkimaru listens to him. While eating, we learn more about Hyakkimaru, discovering his supernatural ability to see the color of souls. If the soul's color is white, It indicates a good person, but if it's red, the person is evil and must be killed. This ability explains why Hyakkimaru killed the monster attacking Doro. Its soul was red. He also allows Doro to stay with him because of Doro's white soul, signaling no threat. The next day, Doro informs Hyakkimaru about a monster terrorizing a nearby village. The villagers are terrified and have offered a large reward to anyone who can defeat the monster. Doro drags Hyakkimaru to the village. Upon arrival, they meet a man named Denchi, the assistant of the village's governor, Bandy, who is bedridden with a broken leg. Denchi welcomes them, providing food and shelter. Doro enjoys the luxurious treatment, but during the night, a strange monster holding a bell appears before them. Doro panics, shouting for Hyakkimaru to attack it, but Hyakkimaru doesn't respond, oddly failing to sense the monster's presence. The bell monster soon leaves, and Doro calms down, sleeping until morning. The next day, Denchi informs them that Governor Bandy wishes to meet them. When they visit her house, Hyakkimaru suddenly draws his sword, intending to attack Bandy. Doro intervenes, insisting that Bandy is just a normal person and trying to stop Hyakkimaru. The commotion gathers villagers, who accuse Doro and Hyakkimaru of attempting to kill their governor, imprisoning them in a storehouse. Inside the storehouse, Doro confronts Hyakkimaru, questioning why he didn't attack the monster the night before, but now wants to kill Bandy. An old blind man in the storehouse overhears and explains that he, like Hyakkimaru, can perceive the soul's color, which allows them to see the essence rather than just the outward appearance. Suddenly, the candles in the storehouse go out, and the room plunges into darkness. A monster appears, prompting Hyakkimaru to chase it. The monster creates a large hole in the ground, leading outside the storehouse. Doro and the old man follow the path to Bandy's house, where they find Hyakkimaru breaking down the door. Bandy transforms into a monster, attacking Hyakkimaru and claiming he should have died long ago. But Hyakkimaru proves stronger, killing her. It turns out Bandy was the monster terrorizing the village. As they process what just happened, Doro notices the bell monster in the distance. Before disappearing, it leaves behind a stash of buried money. Doro takes some and leaves the village with Hyakkimaru and the old man. Suddenly, Hyakkimaru begins to experience strange, intense pain. In time, he calms down and falls asleep, and during this quiet period, we go back in time to uncover many details. We learn that before Hyakkimaru was even born, there was a period of war worldwide. This war was led by a tyrannical ruler who tortured people in horrific ways, including cutting off their limbs before killing them. Shockingly, the person aiding him in these atrocities was Jukai, the same man who helped Hyakkimaru by attaching prosthetics to his body and raising him as a child. At one point, Jukai grew tired of his gruesome life and the terrible deeds he committed, so he decided to rid the world of the tyrant. He threw himself into the water, intending to end his life. However, he was rescued and ended up in another town, where he started a completely new life dedicated to helping people. Many came to him for assistance, and instead of cutting off people's limbs, he began crafting prosthetics for them free of charge. He became a kind and beloved man, respected and prayed for by the villagers. He was assisted by a man named Konami, whom Jukai had saved as a child by attaching an artificial leg. When Konami grew older, he stayed by Jukai's side, and together they helped people. One day, while Konami was out walking, he encountered a mother and her son. The boy's arm had been severed, and he was crying in pain. The mother asked Konami about Dr. Jukai to help her son. Konami quickly carried the boy to Jukai. Jukai reassured the mother that he would attach a prosthetic arm to her son, but needed to wait until the wound healed. The mother was overjoyed and thanked him, and she and Konami walked back, talking about how kind Jukai was. In their conversation, the mother mentioned how one should not believe all the rumors they hear. Curious, Konami asked what rumors she meant. She revealed that she had heard Jukai used to work with the tyrant who tortured people. Shocked, Konami returned home that night to confront Jukai, who confirmed the story. Devastated, Konami accused him of being responsible for his family's deaths. Grabbing a knife, Konami intended to kill Jukai in vengeance. But Jukai calmly told him he could do so after helping the boy who came earlier in the day, as he had promised the mother to treat her son. Konami reluctantly agreed, and after a week, when they successfully treated the boy, Jukai told Konami he could now do whatever he wanted to him. Instead, Konami chose to walk away, saying Jukai wasn't worth it. Jukai was heartbroken by Konami's departure and sat by the river to reflect. Suddenly, he noticed a boat drifting toward him with a small, blind, and limbless child aboard. It was Hyakkimaru. Jukai immediately saved him, fitted him with prosthetics for his limbs and eyes, and raised him lovingly, treating him like his own son and teaching him to read. As Yakimaru grew older, Jukai noticed something strange. Demons and monsters began attacking their home, seemingly targeting Hyakkimaru specifically. Jukai taught him to defend himself. Meanwhile, in a distant place, a boy named Tahomaru was training. Upon seeing his father, he rushed to him, revealing that he was Hyakkimaru's younger brother. Hyakkimaru's family was living normally, except for his mother, who still mourned him but had resigned herself to fate. Years passed, and Hyakkimaru mastered combat, defeating many monsters. One day, after slaying a demon, he experienced intense pain and collapsed. Jukai discovered that Hyakkimaru's right leg had grown back naturally. Surprised, Jukai realized that every time Hyakkimaru defeated a demon, a part of his body was restored. Eventually, Hyakkimaru decided to leave and forge his own path. Jukai bade him farewell, giving him a necklace that had been with him in the boat as a child. Afterward, Hyakkimaru departed. Returning to the present, Hyakkimaru woke up with Doro and the old man by his side, reassuring him. Hyakkimaru stepped on the fire, burning his foot, only to realize that his left leg had also returned. Days passed, and Doro and Hyakkimaru continued their journey until Hyakkimaru stopped in the rain, standing motionless. Doro took shelter under a house roof to avoid catching a cold. A girl named Osaki emerged from the house and was surprised to see Hyakkimaru standing in the rain. Fearing he might get sick, Doro explained that he had been standing there for half an hour without moving. He struck up a conversation with Osaki, asking about her and why she lived in the abandoned area. She explained it was her home with her brother, but he had been in the army for 5 years and hadn't returned. Despite being expected back long ago, she prayed daily for his return as she was lonely. Doro wished for her to reunite with her brother. Just then, a man screamed, running and collapsing with a sword wound on his back. Hyakkimaru, sensing something sinister in red, rushed to the scene. Doro followed, and they found many dead people and a man wielding a sword. Hyakkimaru saw the sword in red, indicating evil, while the man himself appeared white, meaning he wasn't inherently bad. The man claimed the sword was thirsty for blood, compelling him to kill, and that he had no control over his actions. Hyakkimaru attacked to destroy the sword, resulting in a fierce battle. The sword pierced one of Hyakkimaru's prosthetic limbs, prompting him to sever it and throw it away. The man, free from the sword's influence, collapsed. Osaki stumbled upon the fallen man and, to her surprise, recognized him as her brother, Tasaki. She brought him home joyfully. Meanwhile, the sword, now embedded in Hyakkimaru's severed prosthetic arm, was retrieved by Doro, who accidentally grabbed it, allowing it to control him. The sword directed Doro toward the village. At home, Tasaki recounted his story to Osaki. 5 years ago, while in the army, he was ordered to execute an innocent man. Reluctant, he pleaded with his commander to spare the man. Instead, the commander handed him the cursed sword, Niairu. Once Tasaki held it, he was compelled to kill the innocent man and the commander, beginning a bloodthirsty rampage that lasted 5 years. He warned Osaki that the sword would return to him. Doro, under the sword's control, reached the village. Hyakkimaru intercepted him, managing to disarm him. The sword fell near Tosaki, who succumbed to its call and took it up again. Under its influence, Tosaki attacked Hyakkimaru. Despite Osaki's pleas, Hyakkimaru was forced to kill Tosaki and destroy the sword, ending its curse. Heartbroken, Osaki wept for her brother. As this unfolded, Hyakimaru experienced pain as his artificial ears fell off, replaced by real ones. Hearing for the first time, he was greeted by the sound of Osaki's sobs for her brother. Meanwhile, Daigo sat in the Hall of Hell, listening to a voice confirming no trace of Hyakimaru could be found. Daigo began suspecting his son might still be alive. Hyakimaru is sitting in the forest with Doro, his ears aching terribly. He's overwhelmed by the new and strange sounds he's hearing, which are causing him a lot of discomfort. Doro decides to help him by tying something around his ears to reduce the noise a bit. At that moment, a flying monster attacks them. Hyakimaru tries to fight it off but fails. He's weaker than before. The monster injures Hyakimaru badly until the old man arrives and defeats the monster, saving Hyakimaru. However, Hyakimaru is left severely wounded. Doro becomes extremely worried and tells the old man they urgently need medicine for Hyakimaru. The old man explains that they might find medicine in the nearby city, but the problem is that the city is under the rule of King Sky, a ruthless man responsible for the wars happening everywhere. Going to the city could be very dangerous. They decide to wait until the next morning to figure out their next steps. The following day, Hyakimaru wakes up to a beautiful voice singing. He follows the sound and finds a beautiful girl standing in the water, singing to herself. As Hyakimaru approaches, the girl notices him, realizes he's injured and feverish, and becomes concerned. Being a kind-hearted girl, she takes Hyakimaru, Doro, and the old man to her house, where she treats Hyakimaru. She promises to go to the city the next day to get him proper medicine so he can recover fully. She tells them they can stay at her house as long as they need since she isn't alone. She also takes care of many injured children. Doro and the old man thank her and ask for her name. She introduces herself as Mayo and excuses herself to get some rest, explaining she's been working all night. She tells them to ask the children if they need anything. The old man then tells Doro he's going to explore the area to find a safer place, as this location is too close to the city and Sky's forces could occupy it at any moment. Doro agrees but asks the old man not to take too long in case another monster attacks. Meanwhile, Daigo is shown to be upset. It seems that Sky is dominating everyone, and no one is safe from him. To make matters worse, Daigo's city is deteriorating again. They can't grow crops and have no food. This frustrates Daigo greatly, and his wife adds to his anger by reminding him about the son he sacrificed to improve their city, which is now worse than ever. She implies that their son's sacrifice was for nothing. Unable to tolerate her words, Daigo leaves in frustration. Back with Hyakimaru. He's still suffering from the sounds around him. He approaches Mio, trying to use gestures and his voice to ask her to sing. Mio doesn't understand him at first until Doro explains and asks her to sing. Mio begins to sing for Hyakimaru, and everyone is captivated by her soothing voice. The old man returns, interrupting the moment, and announces that he found a good, safe place far from Sky's army. But there's one problem: a monster inhabits the area, and they need to get rid of it first. Hyakimaru immediately gets up, determined to kill the monster. However, everyone tries to stop him, reminding him that he's still injured and too weak to face it alone. He doesn't listen and keeps going, so the old man follows him to ensure he's not alone. When they arrive, they find a massive monster emerging from the ground. Hyakimaru rushes to fight it, and the old man joins him in the battle. However, Hyakimaru isn't strong enough to defeat such a creature. In the middle of the fight, the monster cuts off Hyakimaru's leg before retreating underground. Hyakimaru screams in pain as the old man helplessly watches. The old man has no choice but to carry Hyakimaru back to Mayo's house. When Doro sees Hyakimaru injured, he panics and asks the old man what happened. The old man explains, and just then, Hyakimaru begins to make sounds of pain, indicating his voice has returned. They take him inside, and Mio, seeing his condition, becomes extremely worried. She immediately heads to the city to get medicine and takes care of him. During this time, Dororo feels deeply upset and steps away from the house, fearing something might happen to Hyakkimaru. One of the boys living with Mayo, named Taki, approaches Dororo to comfort him. Taki tells him about his and Mio's dream of restoring the rice fields destroyed by war, building a home, and living a peaceful life like normal people, far from the horrors of war. He reassures Dororo that Hyakkimaru will recover. Dororo becomes close friends with Taki. Meanwhile, Dego hears someone announcing that it's raining, and he feels joy, thinking they can finally start planting crops and return to normal life. But moments later, the rain stops, leaving Dego furious. He orders his guards to prepare the army for an upcoming war with Sky. At this moment, Tahomaru asks his father to let him join the war, claiming he's a skilled fighter. Dego refuses, wanting to keep him away from the dangers of war, which angers Tahomaru. Even when his mother tries to convince him to abandon his war ambitions, he accuses her of not caring about his life and being preoccupied with something else he can't understand. He also confronts her, saying she's always been distant and never made him feel loved. Riding his horse, Tahomaru reflects on his childhood attempts to gain his mother's attention, only to be ignored as she stayed secluded in a specific room. He vows to uncover whatever secret has kept her distant from him. Back with Hyakkimaru, he struggles with his severe leg injury. Frustrated, he tries to stand but falls unable to move. Mayo helps him, calming him down with her soothing presence and singing to him until he relaxes. During this time, Hyakkimaru starts developing strange feelings for Mio. Dororo also helps take care of him, feeding him until he regains his strength. They fit him with a new prosthetic leg so he can walk again. The group stays at Mio's house for a few days, living peacefully. One day, Mio leaves for work, asking Dororo to keep an eye on Hyakkimaru and not let him wander off alone. Dororo reassures her that he'll watch over him. However, only a few hours after Mio leaves, Hyakkimaru decides to hunt down the monster. Dororo and the old man fail to stop him, so Dororo follows him. Hyakkimaru eventually manages to kill the monster after a long and difficult battle. The shocking twist is that as soon as the monster dies, Hyakkimaru's severed leg regenerates. Dororo is overjoyed and tells him to return home before Mio comes back. Meanwhile, back at Mio's house, a group of Sky's men arrive. They storm the house and brutally kill everyone, showing no mercy. From a distance, Dororo sees flames engulfing Mio's house. He tells Hyakkimaru, and they rush back to find the house in ruins. They arrive just in time to witness Taki being killed, with dead children scattered everywhere. Mio lies motionless on the ground. Dororo breaks down in tears, telling Hyakkimaru that Mio and Taki are both dead. Hyakkimaru, shocked, loses control and goes on a rampage, slaughtering all of Sky's men in a brutal and merciless manner. His rage terrifies Dororo, who pleads with him to stop, eventually calming him down. Hyakkimaru mourns Mio before he and Doro bury her and the children. They leave the area, haunted by the sound of Mio's singing echoing in their minds. A few days pass, and Dororo and Hyakkimaru are in the forest, bored with nothing to do. Hyakkimaru is still upset about Mio and everything that happened. Doro tries to comfort him and make him laugh to lift his spirits, but Hyakkimaru doesn't react. Eventually, Dororo gets fed up and walks away. Suddenly, a box falls on him, and when he looks up, he sees a giant spider and a man tied up in spider webs, laughing deliriously. Hyakkimaru tries to kill the spider, seeing it as a demon, but fails as the spider binds him with its webs. He manages to injure the spider, but it escapes. They decide to let it go as they lack the energy to chase demons at the moment. As they continue walking, they see a village in the distance and decide to enter it the next morning. Dororo hopes to find work or a way to earn money since they haven't eaten well in days. Meanwhile, the spider demon transforms into a wounded and weak woman named Ohagi. A kind man named Yaji finds her, helps her up, and takes her to his home as she has nowhere else to go. He cares for her, cooks for her, and tells her she can stay as long as she likes until she recovers. He names her Ohagi after his favorite flower, as she has no name. Ohagi observes Yaji's kindness, realizing he's different from other humans. She decides not to devour his soul just yet. Meanwhile, Doro and Hikamaru reach the same village and see a notice about a monster kidnapping people, with a big reward for anyone who catches or kills it. Doro sees this as a golden opportunity and convinces Hyakimaru to go after the monster for the reward. They search for the monster but find no trace of it. Meanwhile, Ohagi stays weak at Yaji's house. One night, as Yaji sleeps, she feels hungry and considers devouring his soul, but chooses instead to eat a bowl of rice left nearby. The next morning, she looks worse. Yaji becomes concerned and suggests taking her to a nearby village for medical help. Ohagi, moved by Yaji's care, agrees to go with him. That night, as they leave the village, they encounter Hyakimaru and Doro. Doro recognizes Ohagi as the spider demon and accuses her, but Yaji defends her, claiming he was the one kidnapping people to protect her. Villagers overhear and try to capture Yaji, thinking he's the culprit. Ohagi intervenes, defeating the villagers. When Hyakimaru tries to stop her, she binds him with her webs and flees with Yaji. Yaji takes her to a cave and promises it will be a safe place for her to live. Ohagi invites him to stay with her, and they decide to find a better home together. Their happiness is short-lived, as the villagers track them down and shoot Yaji with an arrow. Ohagi, enraged, attacks the villagers, killing them. Hyakimaru arrives to stop her but hesitates when he sees her soul turn white. Ohagi escapes with Yaji, and the two leave the area. The next day, Doro talks nonstop about the events, marveling at how a demon and a human could fall in love. His chatter finally makes Hyakimaru crack a small smile. Days later, in a distant village, the people face a new disaster. Black leather rain falls from the sky. They panic, fearing the awakening of the Neokasa, a monster they believe will destroy them all. Meanwhile, Doro complains about the foul smell of the area as he and Hyakimaru wander aimlessly. They come across people dressed in white carrying a bride. Doro notices a boy his age aiming a slingshot at them but missing. Curious, Doro approaches him. The boy, Saro, explains that he's trying to save his older sister, who is being offered as a bride to a monster. Shocked, Doro asks for the whole story. Saro explains that the Neokasa threatens their village, and the only way to appease it is by sacrificing a bride. Doro promises to help, on the condition of a small fee. Saro agrees, giving him gold he had collected from the river. Doro, thrilled, reassures Saro that he and Hyakimaru will save his sister. The three head to the monster's lair. They fight off the villagers guarding the bride, and Saro tries to untie his sister. She refuses to flee, insisting she must sacrifice herself for the village and for Saro's sake. Saro refuses, pleading with her to escape. Before they can flee, the Neokasa appears and attacks. Doro urges Hyakimaru to fight it, but the monster's dark mist blinds him, making it impossible to locate. The monster targets Saro, and his sister sacrifices herself to save him, getting swallowed by the beast. Saro is devastated, returning home in tears. Doro follows and learns about Saro's past. Saro explains that his sister isn't his real sibling, but a kind woman who found him as an orphan and gave him a home. Doro is moved and vows to avenge her, but this time without Hyakimaru, as the dark mist disables him. Doro and Saro devise a plan to defeat the monster. Doro disguises himself as a bride to lure the Neokasa out of its mist, allowing Saro to strike it with a flaming arrow. The plan works, but the monster sheds its skin, growing larger and immune to fire. The Neokasa notices Saro and Doro and attacks them, but Hyakimaru arrives just in time, shooting an arrow that accidentally hits the monster's eye. Encouraged, Doro devises another plan. He'll climb onto the monster and shout, guiding Hyakimaru to its location. Dororo's plan nearly fails when he's knocked out by a falling rock, but he regains consciousness just in time to shout. Hyakimaru follows the sound and slays the Neokasa, dispelling the mist. Saro's sister emerges alive from the monster's belly, much to Saro's joy. He thanks Doro and Hyakimaru for saving her. Hyakimaru, meanwhile, begins to feel pain as his artificial nose malfunctions. A real nose grows in its place, allowing him to smell again. Overwhelmed by the new scents, he picks a flower to mask the unpleasant odors around him. For the first time, Hyakkimaru calls Dororo by name, asking him to collect flowers along the way. Dororo beams with happiness, thrilled to hear his name from Hyakkimaru's lips. Kamar keeps sniffing everything around him, identifying all the scents, not leaving anything unsniffed. He even sniffed Dororo, not leaving him alone, and continued like this for a while until suddenly, Dororo falls ill and faints. Hyakkimaru rushes to him and finds him burning up with fever. He carries Dororo and keeps walking until he encounters a farmer. Hyakkimaru tells the farmer that Dororo has a high fever. The farmer says he's not a doctor and can't help but mentions a nearby woman who might assist and tell him what to do. So, Hyakkimaru goes to her. It turns out that the woman is very kind. She takes Dororo from him and starts treating him. Dororo is diagnosed with a severe fever and must rest for a while. During this time, Hyakkimaru fetches medicine and water for Dororo, as the woman instructed. Meanwhile, Dororo notices a flower at the woman's house that reminds him of his mother. He starts daydreaming and recalling everything that happened to him as a child. At this point, we learn Dororo's backstory before meeting Hyakkimaru. Dororo used to live a normal life with his father and mother, and it turns out his father was the leader of a group of people. One day, some knights of the king attacked them. Dororo's father, along with his group, fought off the knights, protecting their people and family. Dororo's father had a close companion named Yachi, who was always with him. At that time, Yachi suggested to Dororo's father that they should consider joining the king's knights, as it would be a great opportunity and they could gain high ranks. Dororo's father responded by hitting him, and Dororo's mother also told Yachi that he had forgotten what the king had done to their people and now wanted to become like him. Yachi got upset but backed down to avoid further conflict. One day, Dororo's father Yoko and his group plan an attack on some of the king's knights, as they posed a threat to them. They set out for the attack, but are surprised to find that the knights already knew of their plan. The ambush turned on them because Yachi was a traitor, working for the king. He ordered the knights to shoot Yoko in the leg, crippling him, and finished off the rest of the group, leaving only Yoko, his wife, and son alive. But they wish he hadn't spared them. With Yoko unable to walk, they were left starving, looking for anything they could eat along their path, but found nothing. When they returned home, Yachi had burned their house and the homes of the villagers. The villagers blamed Yoko for everything that happened and accused him of being responsible. Enraged, Yoko snapped, unleashing the beast inside him. He attacked the villagers like a madman, killing everyone until someone stabbed him from behind, and Yoko died. Dororo and his mother were devastated by Yoko's death. They didn't know what to do or where to go. Their situation was dire, and they wandered for days, facing many hardships. They moved from village to village for months until one day, an old man told Dororo's mother about a place that gave food to the poor for free. She hurried to get food for her starving son, waiting in line, only to find out that Yachi was the one distributing the food. When he saw her without Yoko, he realized Yoko had died. He laughed mockingly and told her he had risen to a position close to the king and that soon he'd be the king's right hand. Then, he told everyone that the food was almost gone and wouldn't be enough for everyone waiting in line. The crowd began to fight for the last scraps of food, including Dororo's mother, who begged for the remaining portion. The man distributing the food told her she didn't have a bowl for the soup, so she asked him to pour it into her hands. The man warned her that the soup was too hot and would burn her hands, but she didn't care. He poured the hot soup into her hands, and she took it to feed her starving son, despite the pain from the burns. Afterward, they left the village and passed by a field filled with red flowers. As they walked through it, Dororo's mother collapsed and died. Dororo cried over her and mourned deeply. That was Dororo's story, and the flower he saw while sick was the same flower his mother died beside, which is why he hated it. When Doro recovered from the fever, he and Hyakkimaru left the place, with Doro feeling much better and chattering nonstop, annoying Hyakkimaru. Later, we see Daigo standing and talking to a man who informs him that rumors have spread about a 16-year-old boy with prosthetic limbs who slays monsters. Daigo suspects this boy might be the one he's been searching for and orders the man to find and bring him as quickly as possible. Tahomaru, who had been standing nearby, overhears the conversation and is curious about who this 16-year-old boy is that has captured his father's attention so intensely. Tahomaru senses that there's something behind this boy, so he orders his companions, who are also his guards, named Mitsu and Hojo, to bring the man who was standing with his father because he wants to ask him some questions. Meanwhile, Hyakkimaru and Doro are by the river, washing their clothes. Doro tells Hyakkimaru that he heard about a great land full of food, and he dreams of going there, which also becomes their destination in a few days. As for Tahomaru, he goes to meet the man who was with his father, and Mitsu had brought the man to answer Tahomaru's questions. However, the man refuses to tell Tahomaru anything. All he says is that Dego urgently needs the boy. When Tahomaru asks about the boy's relationship with his father, the man refuses to answer at all. This angers Tahomaru. So he gets on his horse and heads to a place he usually goes to whenever he's upset. Mitsu and Hojo follow him, and when he asks how they knew where to find him, they tell him simply that he's been going to that place since he was young, whenever he was sad. Tahomaru recalls his childhood and remembers how Mitsu and Hojo were the two people who loved and cared for him the most, almost like his parents. He thanks them for always being by his side and never abandoning him. They convince him to return home, and he agrees, getting on his horse and heading back. On the way, they pass through a village where the villagers stop Tahomaru, begging him to save them from death. When Tahomaru asks what's happening, one of the villagers explains that there's a monster in the water that attacks them whenever they go fishing, sinking their boats and eating them. They plead for his help to get rid of the monster because fishing is their only means of survival. Naturally, Tahomaru agrees to help, and he, along with Mitsu and Hojo, sets out to see the monster. They sail in their boats for a while until they find a massive whirlpool beneath them, and the monster emerges attacking them. Mitsu, Hojo, and Tahomaru fight the monster and manage to wound it badly, but the monster doesn't back down and destroys their boats. Tahomaru decides that they need to retreat quickly before all the boats are destroyed. As soon as they reach the shore, Tahomaru thinks for a while, then climbs to a high place with Mitsu and Hojo. He has Hojo lift him so he can get a better view of the area and notices a large empty space next to the river. Tahomaru comes up with a clever idea. They should build a new lake next to the river and construct a dam, then drain the river water into the lake. They'll lure the monster into the lake and trap it with the dam. They go ahead with the plan, and he, along with the villagers, work quickly to build the lake. Once it's done, Hojo sails out into the river, acting as bait to lure the monster. When the monster sees the boat, it chases after it to devour it but finds itself trapped in the lake, surrounded by the dam with no way out. Tahomaru orders the villagers to quickly drain the lake water back into the river. The lake dries up, leaving only the monster. With the monster exposed, it becomes much easier for them to kill it. They attack the monster, injuring it all over its body. The villagers cheer for Tahomaru, but the monster proves smarter than all of them. It hurls large stones at the dam until the dam breaks and the water floods back, submerging everyone. They can no longer attack the monster while underwater. The monster even captures Hojo, trying to devour him. Hojo struggles with all his might to stop the monster from finishing him off. The moment Tahomaru sees Hojo in danger, he swims toward him as fast as he can to try to save him. But suddenly, someone appears and kills the monster with a single slash of his sword. It turns out to be Hyakkimaru. Tahomaru stares at Hyakimaru in shock and bewilderment. After things calm down a bit, Tahomaru approaches Hyakimaru and asks him who he is and how he did that. Doro answers for him, saying that Hyakimaru is a very strong warrior and his job is to slay monsters, but not for free. Doro hints that he wants money from Tahomaru in exchange for the monster's death. Tahomaru gives him the money he asked for and thanks him for saving the village from the monster. Before leaving, Doro asks Tahomaru about the location of Dego's lands, and Tahomaru describes the way to him. Before Hyakimaru leaves, Tahomaru asks him his name, and Hyakimaru replies, then joins Doro and heads towards Dego's city. Meanwhile, Tahomaru tells Hogo and Mitsu that he is upset because Hyakimaru was the one who killed the monster, and he couldn't imagine anyone being better than him with a sword. Mitsu tells him he shouldn't compare himself to someone ordinary like Hyakimaru, reminding him that he is the heir to Dego's lands. In the city, we see Hyakimaru and Doro walking around enjoying the atmosphere, but something strange happens when a woman with a weird appearance starts singing. When she sees Hyakimaru from afar, she calls him the monster's son and runs away terrified. Hyakimaru and Doro go to attend a play that the townspeople are performing. They tell a story about Daigo, portraying him as a hero who saved them from famine and poverty, but they don't know the price Daigo paid for all of this. Doro watches the play, enjoying it, and buys some food, telling Hyakimaru that they'll stay here for a few days with the money they have, and take a break from all the monster hunting. While watching the play, Doro notices the old man who had been with them before sitting and watching as well. After the play ends, Doro goes to talk to him, and the three sit together. Doro tells him everything that happened during his absence, including Mio's death, and everything they faced along the way. Doro asks him why he is here, and the old man replies that he heard there are dead monsters here, and he came to see them. They bid each other farewell and go their separate ways. Meanwhile, Dego is seen standing with Mitsu and Hogo, who tell him about what happened and about a 16-year-old boy with prosthetic limbs who defeated the monster that was chasing them. Daigo realizes that this boy is his son. His wife overhears them and realizes that her son is still alive. She cries for him, knowing that Daigo won't leave him alone. She pleads with Daigo not to harm their son, but Daigo insists that he won't let his land be destroyed because of the boy and have it return to the poverty they were once in. His wife argues that maybe what they're going through now is because they sacrificed an innocent child, and she weeps as Daigo walks away. At this moment, Tahomaru overhears them and becomes curious about the boy's connection to them. Meanwhile, Hyakimaru and Doro continue to wander the city until they reach a wall with many dead bodies and corpses behind it. A young boy named Kuriko approaches them and tells them they can't cross the wall because if they do, they'll be outside the borders and into the territory of Lord Asakura, who has issues with Daigo. Doro, confused, asks why Kuriko is there if that's the case. Kuriko explains that he used to live beyond the wall, and that land used to belong to Daigo. But then, Asakura came with his army, burned down his village, and took over that part of the land, building the wall. Kuriko desperately wants to cross the wall because his mother and family are on the other side in Asakura's land, but he can't because at night, a monster called the Baman monster attacks anyone who tries to cross. Upon hearing the word monster, Doro tells Kuriko that they will help him, but only in exchange for money. Kuriko replies that he has no money to give them. Doro says it's fine, and that they'll settle for being given food for 2 days. Kuriko agrees, and they make a plan and wait until nightfall. When the monster appears, Hyakimaru attacks it, and Doro helps him. Kuriko stands back, hesitating whether to cross the wall without them or not, but he finally decides to cross and runs to search for his mother. Doro calls after him, warning him that it's dangerous and he shouldn't go alone, but Hyakimaru tells him to follow Kuriko while he handles the monster alone. Doro chases after Kuriko and searches for him until he finds him captured by Asakura's army. Meanwhile, Hyakimaru struggles with the powerful monster until he is surprised by a barrage of arrows being shot at it. When he looks to see who did it, he finds Dego standing before him. At the same time, Tahomaru searches for Hyakimaru, knowing that this is the 16-year-old boy Dego is after, and he starts asking people about him. But no one gives him any useful information until he sees the same mad woman from earlier, who was terrified when she saw Hyakimaru. He asks her if she had seen Hyakimaru before. She becomes frightened and starts mumbling incomprehensible things, but she remembers some details. From her, we learn that she was one of the women who helped Hyakimaru's mother give birth, and she saw him born without limbs or eyes. Ever since then, she has been mad from what she witnessed. We return to Hyakimaru, who is now standing in front of Daigo, asking him who he is. Daigo's guards feel insulted on behalf of their ruler and command Hyakimaru to speak to Dego more respectfully. Dego, however, tells Hyakimaru that he should have died long ago and orders his guards to kill him. They fire their arrows at him, but Hyakimaru dodges and runs. Meanwhile, Doro and Kuriko are captured by Asakura's guards and thrown in prison. When Doro wakes up, he tells Kuriko that they need to escape together. Kuriko is devastated because he saw his village destroyed and burned down along the way, and he believes his family is dead. Doro comforts him, telling him that even if that's true, he must stay strong and continue living. One of the prisoners tells them not to worry, assuring them that Daigo won't leave them to die. Doro notices a symbol on the prisoner's cloth, one that he had seen before with Hyakimaru, and asks the man about it. The man explains that anyone with that symbol is from Dago's household. Doro is shocked because this means that Hyakimaru is related to Daigo. They stay in the prison for a while, and then Doro notices a drop of water falling on him from above. When he looks up, he sees a small opening that they could escape through. He tells Kuriko that he'll escape through the hole, find Hyakimaru, and return to rescue him. Doro successfully escapes from the small opening and flees the prison. Meanwhile, Tahomaru returns home and confronts his mother. It turns out that he has learned everything, and the mad woman told him everything he wanted to know. He reproaches his mother, not understanding how she could sacrifice her own son. Dego overhears and intervenes, explaining that he was the one who sacrificed Hyakimaru to save the land. He tells Tahomaru that he doesn't understand what they were going through at the time. Tahomaru argues that even so, Dego shouldn't have sacrificed his own son. Dego insists that one day Tahomaru will understand his decision, but they are all shocked when they see Hyakimaru standing before them, listening to their conversation. His mother calls out to him, and Daigo orders his guards to kill him. Hyakimaru flees and soon meets up with Doro, who tells him about the symbol and helps him realize that Hyakimaru is Dago's son. Together, they go to rescue Kuriko first and then figure out the Hyakimaru family issue later. When they arrive at the wall, they find Kuriko and the other prisoners tied up as Asakura's soldiers prepare to execute them with arrows. As Hyakimaru moves to intervene, the Baman monster reappears. Additionally, Daigo brings a group of knights and heads towards the wall because he knows Hyakimaru is there. They all meet face to face, and the biggest surprise is when Tahomaru arrives as well. He tells Hyakimaru, with great sadness, that he now understands his father's reasoning, and that if they don't kill Hyakimaru, the entire village will perish. He declares that it isn't fair for so many lives to be lost for the sake of one person. He announces in front of everyone that he will be the one to kill Hyakimaru himself. Tahomaru takes up his sword and attacks Hyakimaru, but Hyakimaru defends himself and injures Tahomaru's eye. Hyakimaru then goes to the other side of the wall to finish off the monster, frees Kuriko, and rescues him. But before the battle continues, their mother rushes in and stops everything. She tells Hyakimaru that she couldn't save him before, and she won't be able to save him now, but she wants to protect him from more pain and suffering. Hyakkimaru and Dororo continue their journey. A few days pass after what happened, but Hyakkimaru still can't move past it. He keeps remembering Tahomaru, who wants to kill him, and his mother who sacrificed herself for him. He gets up, exhausted, determined to defeat the demons, because he wants to regain all his body parts quickly. Doro tries to stop him, fearing he'll hurt himself, and convinces him to at least take a couple of days off, but Hyakkimaru refuses and keeps searching for demons everywhere. Dororo, trying to cheer him up, lies and says he heard about a demon near a place called the Hot Springs, a beautiful place filled with water, somewhere Dororo always wanted to go. Hyakkimaru agrees. Meanwhile, we see Dego, and it turns out Hyakkimaru's mother is still alive but injured, and her condition is critical. Tahomaru is sitting nearby, frustrated about losing his eye, vowing to kill Hyakkimaru. Back to Hyakkimaru and Dororo, they reach a place where a woman is dragging a man behind her, taking him to a cave and placing him under a giant statue. The statue moves and decapitates the man, and the woman's face changes, taking on a different appearance. On their way to the springs, Hyakkimaru and Dororo spot a house and decide to rest there for a while. Dororo tells Hyakkimaru he'll go collect some firewood to start a fire and tells him to stay and rest. Dororo heads out, gathering wood, but on his way, he sees the strange woman, and she looks exactly like his mother. Even her voice sounds the same. He grabs her hand and takes her to Hyakkimaru to make sure she isn't a demon. Hyakkimaru checks the color of her spirit and sees it's white but slightly hazy. Dororo is happy that this woman, who looks like his mother, isn't a demon. He asks for her name, and she says it's Okaka. The house they're in is hers. Dororo asks her if they can stay with her for a while, and she agrees, even cooking them a meal. Dororo chats with her and asks about a statue he saw in the cave and why its face was deformed. She tells him the story long ago. There was a skilled sculptor in the village who loved to carve statues. One day, he decided to create a giant statue with a face no one had ever seen before. But every time he tried, he failed to create a face that impressed people, so he destroyed it every time. Eventually, he became frustrated and discovered that people were only criticizing him to make sure he never succeeded because they hated him. Heartbroken over the years of wasted effort, he destroyed the last face he made and died. Dororo feels bad for the sculptor, but Okaka tells him not to dwell on it and gives him the food. After they finish eating, Hyakkimaru falls into a deep sleep, oblivious to everything around him, and Dororo is about to fall asleep too. He tells Okaka that he likes her because she reminds him of his mother. She tells him she can finish the story about the sculptor. When the sculptor died, his soul split into two parts. One part entered the statue, and the other entered Okaka. Now the two parts live on to seek revenge on people and hate humans, cutting off their heads as vengeance. She then ties up Hyakkimaru and Dororo and drags them to the statue, but leaves Dororo behind because she doesn't need a child's face. Dororo manages to free himself and chases after her to save Hyakkimaru. He stalls her long enough for Hyakkimaru to wake up and break free from his bindings. He looks around and sees the statue's spirit is red, realizing it is evil and must be destroyed. First he kills Okaka, then leaps onto the statue and stands on its deformed face until the sword in the statue's hand moves and strikes its face, destroying it. The spirit inside the statue escapes. Doro is saddened by Okaka's death, because she looked like his mother, and he felt safe around her. He wishes she could have stayed. Hyakkimaru tries to console him, telling him they should head to the hot springs. Dororo cheers up, and the two go to the springs together, enjoying the atmosphere and swimming happily. Nearby, they spot the old man. Doro is startled and asks how the old man keeps appearing everywhere. The old man replies it's just a coincidence. Dororo doesn't pay much attention, and soon some children come over to play around them. The children are surprised when they see Dororo's back because there's an unclear map drawn on it. The old man shows signs of shock when he realizes there's a map on Dororo's back. We flash back to when Dororo's parents were still alive. Dororo's father had hidden a large sum of money in a secret place for people to use to rebuild their homes and return to their lives after the war. But after Hayaki betrayed them, and his father was injured in the leg, he decided he had to tell someone about the money in case he died. He tries to tell his wife, but she stops him, saying if he tells her now, she can't guarantee she won't go and take the money out of desperation due to poverty and hunger. They come to a compromise, and Dororo's father draws part of the map on his wife's back. After he died, Dororo's mother drew the other part of the map on Dororo's back, and the map only appears when exposed to heat. Back to the present, the old man tells Dororo the map is of a treasure, and that he has heard the treasure is meant for the poor. He tells Dororo that it's now up to him to decide whether to take the money for himself, give it to the people, or continue on the path with Hyakkimaru to defeat the demons and forget about the money. Dororo is confused, unsure what to do, thinking about how the money could change his life and the lives of others. When he goes to ask for Hyakkimaru's opinion, Hyakkimaru, as usual, doesn't respond, leaving Dororo without an answer. They continue walking until they encounter a ghostly woman asking Hyakkimaru for help. Next to her is a giant childlike figure, resembling a monster, who immediately clings to Dororo, lifting him up and calling him Mama. Dororo calls out to Hyakkimaru for help, but Hyakkimaru tells him it's not a monster, so he leaves it alone. They continue their journey, with the child still carrying Dororo, not wanting to let go. Eventually, they arrive at a burnt, down place that smells strongly of gasoline. Dororo and Hyakkimaru are puzzled, and suddenly, a man named Sabai appears. The moment he shows up, the child vanishes. Sabai's spirit color is strange, white with red around it. Sabai tells them he's the village chief and invites them to dinner at his house because he enjoys hosting travelers and hearing their stories. Dororo immediately agrees when he hears there's food involved, and they both go to Sabai's house. Sabai sets a nice atmosphere with music. Doro asks him about the child and the woman's ghost they saw near the burnt place. Sabai says he doesn't know much, only that the burnt, down place used to be an orphanage, and the caretakers were abusive to the children, even selling them if they misbehaved. One day, lightning struck the orphanage, burning it down. The monsters they saw could be the spirits of the people who died there. After finishing the conversation, Sabai shows them to a room to sleep in. Doro talks to Hyakkimaru, asking if he believes Sabai's story. Hyakkimaru says no, because if lightning had struck the place and burned it down, why is there gasoline on the ground, and why does the smell linger everywhere? It suggests someone deliberately burned the place down, not lightning, as Sabai claimed. Dororo agrees that Hyakkimaru makes a good point. Suddenly, a giant larva attacks them. Hyakkimaru stabs it several times to kill it, but before he can finish it off, a giant butterfly appears and takes the larva away. Dororo, confused, asks Hyakkimaru if the butterfly really came to save the giant larva. Hyakkimaru says he doesn't understand either. Later, we see the giant butterfly flying towards Sabai, who is standing on a high hill. The butterfly transforms into a girl, and Sabai tells her he brought her food for her and the children. The girl tells him she couldn't defeat Hyakkimaru and was beaten. Sabai is shocked but reassures her, saying he'll take care of it. The next day, Sabai invites Dororo and Hyakkimaru for breakfast. They sit and chat for a while about what happened the previous day. Sabai pretends to know nothing, and he offers them to stay for a few days. Doro agrees as long as they feed him. After finishing breakfast, Dororo tells Hyakkimaru he can't believe that Sabai offered to let them stay in the village for free, and says he's going to explore the village. Dororo starts walking around, seeing the villagers working hard, planting as much as possible before winter arrives. He senses a pleasant atmosphere with kind people, and a little girl invites him to eat with her and her grandmother. Dororo joins them, and the old woman tells him to thank Sabai because he's the reason for all their blessings. Dororo seizes the opportunity and asks her about the burned house. Her expression changes, and she refuses to answer, taking her granddaughter and walking away. The people around start giving Dororo uneasy looks. Meanwhile, Hyakkimaru grows suspicious of Sabai, sensing something is off. One day Hyakkimaru follows Sabai after seeing him leave the house. Sabai eventually realizes he's being followed and leads him to a high place overlooking the village. He tells Hyakkimaru he comes here regularly and shares a bit about the village's history. He explains that a long time ago, the king's soldiers came, destroyed much of the village, burned it down, and stole all their food reserves. The village descended into chaos, with people starting to steal from each other. It was almost like hell. Sabai then tells Hyakkimaru that he managed to restore order and bring peace back to the village. He says that everything in the village, whether human or monster, is under his protection, and he won't allow Hyakkimaru to harm them. He even mentions that while Hyakkimaru came to slay monsters, the butterflies and creatures he intends to kill helped rebuild the village from scratch. Meanwhile, Dororo, still wandering the village, stumbles upon a large storage building. His curiosity gets the better of him, and he sneaks inside, finding only stored food at first. But then he trips over something on the ground. It's a hidden door. The moment he opens it, someone from the village shoves him inside, apologizing and saying they have to do this for the good of the people. Inside, Dororo finds himself surrounded by red eyes. As they move closer, they turn into large larvae chasing after him. Dororo runs until he hits a wall, and the larvae nearly catch him when the monster, like child from before, appears, saving Doro. A group of child spirits emerges, distracting the larvae and guiding Doro to an escape route. They also show him the truth about what happened. It's revealed that a long time ago, the house was indeed burned down, and it was Sabai and the villagers who did it. They had struck a deal with the monsters to destroy the children, and in exchange, restore the village to its former glory. Meanwhile, Hyakkimaru is still facing Sabai, surrounded by giant butterflies. Sabai orders the butterflies to eat Hyakkimaru. It turns out that Sabai lures tourists who visit the village to his house and sacrifices them to the butterflies. But Hyakkimaru slays all the butterflies around him. With no food left, the remaining butterflies start attacking the village, causing widespread chaos as everything, including the food storage, goes up in flames. The villagers are in despair, not knowing how they'll survive the winter without any food. Sabai stands in shock, watching everything he built over the years burn before his eyes. Meanwhile, Hyakkimaru confronts a giant butterfly and kills it, but this triggers immense pain as his spine starts to regenerate, leaving him unable to walk at first. Doro helps Hyakkimaru, and they return to the village, where Dororo feels deep sympathy for the people's suffering. Hyakkimaru, however, remains indifferent, which greatly angers Dororo. He confronts Hyakkimaru, accusing him of only caring about killing monsters and warning him that if he continues down this path, he'll become just like the monsters he's fighting. Hyakkimaru says nothing and continues walking. Dororo, now furious, storms off, leaving Hyakkimaru. It's only halfway down the road that Hyakkimaru realizes Dororo is no longer by his side. Meanwhile, Dororo crosses paths with Itachi, who, upon seeing him, says he's been looking for him to get the rest of the treasure map. Doro lies to Itachi, claiming he doesn't know anything, and even shows his back to prove it. Itachi insists that Dororo must know something about the treasure, and that they can both benefit from it. He ties Dororo up and takes him along on horseback, telling him on the way that if they find the treasure, he'll give Dororo a share. Dororo says he doesn't want anything and refuses to help. They eventually arrive at a coastal village where they need to cross to an island in the middle of the water. But when they enter the village, they find it completely destroyed, with no bodies, only blood. They walk until they reach the shore, where they find all the boats wrecked, making it impossible to cross. Then, a man with one arm approaches Itachi, offering to help them cross. Itachi agrees, and he, along with his men, boards the boats. Strangely, the boats are pulled by ropes attached to sharks. The man reveals he's insane and brought them there as a meal for his sharks. He explains that the two sharks are his entire family and that he cut off his own arm to feed them because they love human flesh. His obsession with the sharks led him to kidnap villagers and throw them into the water for the sharks to eat until everyone in the village disappeared. The man signals one of his sharks, which destroys the first boat, killing everyone on board. He then jumps onto the shark, casually walking around, and tells the second shark to wait until sunset to eat the remaining boat with Doro and Itachi on it. Everyone on the boat feels their end is near, except Doro, who starts thinking of a plan. He tells Itachi to tie him up with ropes so he can jump into the water and lure the shark closer to the boat, where they can all stab it to death. The plan works. Doro jumps into the water, signaling for them to pull him up just as the shark closes in. When the shark leaps out of the water, the men stab it repeatedly with their swords until it dies. They use all their strength to reach the island, pulling the dead shark onto the shore. They plan to use it as bait when the crazy man arrives, searching for his shark. When he reaches the shore, they'll beat him up for what he did to them. Everything goes according to plan, and when the man reaches the shore, Itachi and his men beat him mercilessly, except for Doro, who tells them to stop and not kill him. Itachi listens because Doro saved their lives. They get back to their mission and ask Doro about the treasure's location, but he insists he doesn't know. Itachi doesn't believe him and searches Dororo's body, eventually discovering the map on Dororo's back by accident when he gets close to the fire, which reveals the map. Itachi takes the map, ties Doro up, and leaves him. The crazy man is left grieving over his dead shark, commanding the other shark to avenge its brother. After that, they head to a completely different place where Jukai is helping by attaching prosthetic limbs to the dead bodies and assisting people. He's working with a group of people when suddenly monsters attack, devouring all the men with him. Just as things seem hopeless, Hyakkimaru appears and slaughters all the monsters, saving Jukai. Jukai can hardly believe his eyes when he sees Hyakkimaru and is overjoyed to see him again. He takes Hyakkimaru to the cave where he lives and asks him to tell him everything that has happened over the years. Hyakkimaru begins to tell Jukai about his family and the deal they made with the demons, sacrificing him as a child. He also explains that his family now wants to eliminate him to save themselves and their land before he regains all the body parts the demons took, ending the pact. Hyakkimaru then asks Jukai to make him a new prosthetic leg since he lost one fighting the butterfly demon. However, Jukai refuses, telling Hyakkimaru that he won't allow him to keep fighting demons and complete his body, because it would put him in danger. He warns that everyone will turn against Hyakkimaru, seeing him as the cause of their land's destruction. At the same time, Hyakkimaru's mother wakes up, crying and realizing that her actions were foolish and achieved nothing, neither protecting her son nor mending the growing hatred between Tahomaru and Hyakkimaru. Daigo enters and tells her to stop thinking about what happened and to push her emotions aside, focusing on her own interests and the welfare of their people. He leaves, ordering his son Tahomaru to find Hyakkimaru and finish him off. Tahomaru listens to his father, gathers Hogo and Mitsu, and sets out to track Hyakkimaru, finding out his last known location. Meanwhile, Hyakkimaru insists to Jukai that he needs the prosthetic leg to save someone dear to him. As they sit talking, it starts raining, causing mud and rocks to fall, blocking the cave entrance. Hyakkimaru tries to escape to save Doro, but Jukai remains firm in his decision. Destroying all the prosthetic legs, he has to stop Hyakkimaru from fighting. However, Hyakkimaru doesn't care and continues trying to find a way out. Eventually, Hyakkimaru and Jukai manage to exit the cave, only to find themselves surrounded by monsters. Hyakkimaru slaughters them all, but they keep coming until he realizes that a nearby tree is summoning them. He cuts down the tree, causing the monsters to die, and tells Jukai that he understands why he acted as he did. He reassures Jukai that no matter what, He will go and save Doro, whether Jukai helps him or not. Hyakimaru bids farewell to Jukai, telling him that he is like family, just like his mother. Jukai laughs through his tears and wishes Hyakimaru relief from the burden and curse haunting him. Hyakimaru begins asking around for Doro, eventually reaching the village by the shore and learning that Doro is on the other side. He takes a boat to reach him, while Tahomaru arrives at a location full of monsters. He fights them with Mitsu and Hogo, though it's clear he's weakened due to losing one eye. Together, they manage to defeat the monsters, but Tahomaru keeps searching for Hyakimaru until he, too, reaches the village. Upon learning that Hyakimaru had been there, Tahomaru signals his soldiers and starts plotting his next evil move once he finds Hyakimaru. We return to Doro, still tied up with ropes, while the crazy man grieves over the death of his shark. He orders the second shark to eat its dead sibling. As soon as the shark does, it transforms into a massive monster capable of walking on land, wreaking havoc on everything around it. The beast approaches Doro to devour him, but Hyakimaru arrives just in time, killing the monster with only one leg, all for the sake of Doro. Hyakimaru embraces Doro, who begins to cry. At that moment, Hyakimaru's leg is restored. Both he and Doro are overjoyed. Doro tells him everything and says they must stop Itachi from reaching the treasure. They run off to confront him, while Itachi continues searching for the treasure. He finds a blocked path and begins thinking of a way to get through. Hyakimaru suggests they could blow it up. Itachi loves the idea, but before they can execute it, Tahomaru and his soldiers arrive on the island. Tahomaru orders his men to eliminate anyone in their way, and the soldiers start firing arrows at Itachi and his men, forcing them to flee in all directions, hiding wherever they can. Tahomaru searches for Hyakimaru and, upon finding him, wastes no time, attacking immediately with Mitsu and Hogo. Hyakimaru struggles as the three of them gang up on him. Doro and Itachi had already run off, leaving Hyakimaru to fight alone. Hogo manages to break one of Hyakimaru's swords, and Tahomaru attempts to break the second one while Mitsu shoots arrows at him from behind, one of which hits him in the back. Even though Hyakimaru is seriously injured, he fights on, critically wounding Hogo. Meanwhile, Itachi and Doro find a safe place but discover a location marked on the map. Itachi heads towards it, determined to see the treasure, while Doro tries to stop him, insisting they should hide first. Itachi ignores Doro and presses on, but Tahomaru's soldiers catch him and shoot him with arrows until he falls to the ground. Doro feels sad for Itachi, but there's nothing he can do. The crazy man, however, brings a load of explosives, stands atop a high spot, and sets them off. Large rocks fall, crushing Tahomaru's soldiers. Doro mourns for Itachi, who is on the verge of death, but Itachi speaks to him one last time, asking Doro to show him the treasure he's always wanted to find. Doro helps him to his feet, and they reach the treasure. Both Itachi and Doro are amazed by its enormous size. Itachi thanks Doro before passing away, after Hogo is severely injured. Tahomaru calls off the mission out of fear for his friend's life. He and Mitsu retreat to their ship, leaving Hyakimaru behind. Hyakimaru goes to Doro, who sits mourning for Itachi, but there's nothing they can do. Hyakimaru tells Doro they need to leave immediately. Doro takes some of the money with him, and they both board a boat, leaving the island behind. They go to a blacksmith to get a new sword for Hyakimaru after his was broken. Someone directs them to a famous blacksmith named Munitsa in a faraway village. They walk for a long time, asking everyone they pass about the blacksmith, until they find a man who tells them the way. However, the man warns them not to go because Munitsa is a terrible blacksmith who can't do anything right. He also says Munitsa's daughter, Oko, is a terrible person with a scary personality. He badmouths them a lot, but Hyakimaru and Doro ignore him, since they didn't come all this way for nothing. They decide to give the blacksmith a chance and head to his house, where Oko, the daughter, opens the door. She turns out to be very beautiful and kind. They realize the man was lying because Oko is not bad at all. When Oko sees Hyakimaru, she is immediately smitten and starts thinking of him as her future husband. She leads them to her father Munitsa and warns them to behave well, because he is short-tempered, and first impressions matter to him a lot. When they enter his room, Oko goes to tell her father that two people have come to see him. But when he turns around, he finds Hyakimaru and Doro wearing funny masks they took from the wall, making him think they're mocking him. Oko tries to calm him down to salvage the situation, because she doesn't want to lose her potential groom. Munitsa tells them they will go to the workshop to look at the broken sword. They all go to the workshop, and there, a small goblin-like creature appears. It casts a spell on Hyakimaru, making him do the opposite of whatever is asked. For example, when Munitsa asks him to put the sword on the table, Hyakimaru lifts Doro and places him on the table instead of the sword. But no one notices, and Doro gets up and places the sword on the table, acting as if nothing happened. They all return to Munitsa's house, where Doro and Hyakimaru plan to stay for a few days while Munitsa fixes the sword. Doro talks to Hyakimaru, telling him how much they need the sword to defend themselves from monsters. But Hyakimaru tells him that he doesn't need the sword right now, which confuses Doro. He asks Hyakimaru why they traveled all this way if he didn't need the sword and gets frustrated with him. Just then, Oko enters with dinner and sits down with them. She starts getting closer to Hyakimaru, expressing her admiration for him. Hyakimaru tells her that he likes her too, but he means the opposite. Doro is shocked by Hyakimaru's words and asks him when he fell in love with Oko. Oko silences Doro and asks Hyakimaru if he agrees to marry her. Hyakimaru agrees, and Doro is completely stunned. He yells at everyone, because he doesn't understand what's going on. Oko is overjoyed and tells Hyakimaru that she will follow him wherever he goes. Doro tells her that he's the only one who accompanies Hyakimaru on his journey, and that no one else is joining them. Hyakimaru responds by saying he doesn't want Doro around and wants Oko to accompany him instead. Doro is deeply hurt by this and wishes Hyakimaru a happy life, before leaving the house in tears. The next day, Oko gathers the villagers to celebrate her engagement, preparing for the wedding. Hyakimaru agrees with everything she says, though he means the opposite. Meanwhile, Doro heads to the blacksmith's workshop and meets Munitsa, telling him how upset he is with Hyakimaru's behavior. Munitsa asks him some questions, and Doro answers in a way that contradicts what he actually means. Munitsa is puzzled, but Doro doesn't notice and falls asleep in the workshop. The next day, when Doro wakes up, he finds that he's speaking normally again. He begins to think deeply about the situation and realizes that the workshop is the problem. After piecing things together, he figures out that the strange mask in the workshop is causing the issue. When he was holding it the day before, he spoke in contradictions, but after leaving it behind, he spoke normally again. He rushes out to tell Hyakimaru but encounters the goblin, which looks exactly like the mask. Doro realizes that the goblin is behind the problem. He throws stones at it to knock it down. Meanwhile, Hyakimaru and Oko arrive, and Doro tells Hyakimaru to destroy the goblin. However, the goblin commands Hyakimaru to do the opposite, so Hyakimaru starts choking Doro. Everyone tries to stop him to save Doro, and Munitsa arrives just in time to strike the goblin on the head. The spell is broken, and Hyakimaru returns to normal. He tells Oko that he doesn't want to marry her, and Oko accepts the situation. Hyakimaru and Doro explain everything to the villagers, and the wedding is called off. Just then, one of the villagers speaks up. It turns out to be the same man who told Doro and Hyakimaru that Munitsa was a terrible blacksmith. He confesses his love for Oko and asks to marry her. Oko blushes and immediately agrees, and everything returns to normal. Then we return to Dago's lands, and we find that a new disaster has struck. The locusts have destroyed all the rice crops, and diseases have begun to spread again in the lands and villages. The people are experiencing famine, and have nothing to eat, begging Tahomaru to provide them with any food for their children who are on the brink of starvation. Tahomaru, feeling deeply sorry for them, gives them the food he has with Mutsu and Hyogo. They say that these disasters must be because they failed to kill Hyakimaru the last time they saw him. Tahomaru decides they must find Hyakimaru as soon as possible and eliminate him. Meanwhile, Dego stands with someone who tells him that something strange has happened in the Hall of Hell. A blue spark appeared between the demon statues there. Daigo says he will look into it later. We then return to Hyakimaru and Doro, who are enjoying the autumn season. Kagemitsu picks some fruit and shares it with Doro. They talk about demons, and a man named Sabu overhears them and tells them he has been hunting a particular demon for about 6 months. Doro asks him why, and Sabu explains that this demon killed his mother, and he seeks revenge. Doro assures him that Hyakimaru is a great demon slayer and will help him. The three of them set out to find the demon. When it appears, it is a terrifying and massive creature. When Hyakimaru attacks it, Sabu tries to kill Hyakimaru from behind. Hyakimaru is puzzled, not understanding why Sabu is defending the demon. Doro and Hyakimaru think Sabu is crazy. The demon is very powerful, and during the fight, Doro and Hyakimaru fall off a cliff. Doro faints, and Hyakimaru tries to revive him. When Doro wakes up, he finds his hand stuck between some rocks, and they struggle to free it. The situation worsens when water starts rising from the ground, filling the area where they are trapped. Hyakimaru tries desperately to free Doro before they drown. Just then, the old man appears again and rescues Doro. Both are amazed at how the old man always shows up when they are in trouble. We learn Sabu's backstory 6 months ago. He was with his mother to fetch some supplies for their work when they encountered the demon. The demon severely injured Sabu, who, in his fear, abandoned his mother to the demon. His mother pleaded for his help, but he ran home in shock. The villagers pitied him and his mother and promised to help him avenge her. But they spoke ill of him, calling him a coward for leaving his mother. When they reached the demon's lair, the villagers were killed, leaving Sabu alone because he hid in fear. Sabu's actions were driven by his need to prove to himself that he wasn't the only coward, wanting to see others scream and run from the demon as he did to absolve his guilt. Hyakimaru returns to the demon's lair to kill it and manages to cut off half its head. Sabu is shocked, admitting he should have been like Hyakimaru, realizing he truly is a coward. Suddenly, the demon revives, eats Sabu, and grows wings, becoming stronger. Hyakimaru attacks the demon again, dismembering it completely. Doro finds Hyakimaru sitting sadly because even after killing the demon, nothing on his body has been restored. He realizes he won't regain his body parts until he confronts Dego. At the same time, the statues in the Hall of Hell begin to reform, indicating the demons are trying to prevent Hyakimaru from regaining his body and nullifying their pact with Dego. Hyakimaru is enraged, focused solely on reclaiming his body. Doro is unhappy with Hyakimaru's attitude, noticing he has become selfish. On their journey, they encounter Asakura soldiers. Doro tells Hyakimaru something terrible must be happening in the villages the soldiers are heading to, but Hyakimaru says he doesn't care and only wants to reach Dego. Doro asks what Hyakimaru will do when he reaches Dago's lands. Hyakimaru replies that he will kill everyone to get his body back. Doro warns him he might never see his family again and regret it, but Hyakimaru insists Doro is his only family and he needs nothing else. Dego struggles to manage the famines in his lands and the impending attack from Asakura, leading to chaos. He drafts civilians and confiscates their horses for the war, causing further disorder. Mutsu and Hyogo, witnessing the chaos, remember their own childhood when Asakura attacked their village, taking them captive and starving them for months. Dego had rescued them, taking them to his home and making them responsible for Tahomaru. They resolve to find and eliminate Hyakimaru to end the suffering. Dego orders Tahomaru to find and kill Hyakimaru quickly to avoid a war with Asakura. Tahomaru reassures him and sets out with Mutsu and Hyogo. Meanwhile, Hyakimaru, close to Daigo's lands, meets a man who warns them about the impending war. Hyakimaru threatens the man, but Doro stops him, accusing Hyakimaru of changing drastically. Hyakimaru argues he needs to become a normal human and wants to regain his senses, not to die for others. Doro understands, feeling Hyakimaru is right. They continue their journey. Tahomaru, unable to find Hyakimaru, decides to camp and rest. Noticing Mutsu is exhausted, he orders her to rest, planning to resume the search in the morning. The next day, they reach a high place on the mountain and spot Hyakimaru. Tahomaru immediately attacks, and a fierce battle ensues. Hyakimaru, fighting like a madman, cuts off Mutsu's and Hyogo's arms, then moves to kill Tahomaru. A soldier loyal to Tahomaru charges at Hyakimaru with his horse, knocking him down. The soldier, sent by Dego to protect Tahomaru, drugs him to take him home safely and captures Doro to ensure they can find Hyakimaru again. Then they all return to Dago's lands, and Tahomaru goes to check on Hyogo. Afterwards, someone comes to him and says that Mutsu is severely ill and will die soon, so he rushes with Hyogo to see her. However, they are not allowed to enter to avoid getting infected. Tahomaru is deeply saddened and blames her for not telling him. Meanwhile, Doro is imprisoned, but Hyakimaru's mother comes and opens the door, helping him escape behind the guards' backs. She tries to find a safe place to get Doro out of the prison completely, but the guards arrive. She hides Doro until they leave, then takes him to a small door leading outside. They walk together until she is sure he is out and asks him where he is going. He says he will look for Hyakimaru. She thanks him for staying by Hyakimaru's side all this time, and he bids her farewell, promising to tell Hyakimaru that she helped him once they meet. Doro is hesitant to take her with him because he believes Hyakimaru will never forgive her for abandoning him as a child. She says it doesn't matter and that she only wants to see him, even from afar. Doro agrees, and they board a boat on the river to reach Hyakimaru. Suddenly, a strong current sweeps them into the water. When Doro wakes up later, he finds himself in a village with the old man beside him, who reveals he saved him. Doro tries to remember what happened and recalls Hyakimaru's mother. He asks about her, and the old man says she is helping the injured in the village. Doro decides to stay in the village for a while to help the people before continuing his search for Hyakimaru. Meanwhile, Mutsu escapes from her room, rides her horse, and heads towards the Hall of Hell. Hyogo and Tahomaru quickly follow her and keep calling out to her. She reaches the Hall of Hell, stands before the demon statues, and offers her body and soul in exchange for restoring Daigo's land to its former state. A whirlwind forms around her as Hyogo and Tahomaru arrive and try to stop her, entering the whirlwind as well. Suddenly, the whirlwind stops, and the demons reject her offer, wanting only Hyakimaru. Tahomaru becomes more enraged and frantically searches for Hyakimaru. At the same time, Hyakimaru, riding a fierce horse, searches for Doro and defeats anyone in his path. Doro and his mother hear about this and decide to search for Hyakimaru again. He is close to Dago's lands when he coincidentally meets Tahomaru, who looks strange with a red eye and a third eye appearing. Hyakimaru draws his sword quickly to finish him off. We are also surprised to find that Hyogo and Mutsu have regained their limbs, but they are red. As Hyakimaru fights them, the old man Doro and Hyakimaru's mother watch from afar. The old man, who seems to know a lot, explains to Doro that when Dego made his pact with the demons, there were 12 statues in the Hall of Hell. Each demon took a part of Hyakimaru. One demon failed to take anything, which is why Hyakimaru is still alive. The demons are now trying to complete the pact. If they fail, they will destroy Dago's lands. Each demon Hyakimaru killed returned a part of him, which is why the statues were broken. When Hyakimaru defeated the demon that had taken Sabu's mother, the statue reformed without returning anything to Hyakimaru. The demons have now given Tahomaru Mutsu and Hyogo all of Hyakimaru's missing parts, meaning Hyakimaru must defeat them to regain his body. As Hyakimaru fights, his fierce horse decapitates Hyogo, and both of Hyakkimaru's arms return. Tahomaru, grieving for Mutsu and Hyogo, cannot believe they are dead. Their mother arrives, begging them to stop. Hyakkimaru, hearing her voice, leaves quickly. Tahomaru follows, seeking revenge. Their mother collapses, crying over her children. Onlookers argue about killing Hyakkimaru to restore their land. Doro angrily calls them selfish for blaming Hyakkimaru while doing the same. Hyakkimaru's mother then speaks, saying Hyakkimaru must die for all the lives lost and that she, too, must sacrifice her feelings. Doro argues that everyone seeking a better life should strive for it themselves, not rely on someone else's sacrifice, just like Hyakkimaru is doing. The argument stops when they see fire from Dego's house and run there, knowing Hyakkimaru and Tahomaru are inside. Indeed, they are fighting inside. Tahomaru, remembering Mutsu and Hyogo, becomes more furious, attacking Hyakkimaru with increased rage. Hyakkimaru slams him against a wall and has a chance to behead him but hesitates. Tahomaru asks why he didn't kill him. Hyakkimaru says he felt love for his younger brother and feared his death. Tahomaru softens and is about to drop his sword, considering abandoning his vengeance. However, the demon eyes given to him take over, commanding him to kill his brother. Struggling to control himself, Tahomaru removes his eyes and gives them to Hyakkimaru, who finally regains his sight. The 12th demon, which failed to kill Hyakkimaru, emerges. Hyakkimaru quickly defeats it. Meanwhile, their mother, trying to reach them, remembers a hidden underground path into the burning house. She finds it blocked but is surprised when Jukai arrives to help her, revealing he has been watching over Hyakkimaru. Once inside, she tries to get Hyakkimaru out quickly, calling Doro for help. Before Doro pulls Hyakkimaru out, she hugs him, apologizing for everything, then goes to her other son Tahomaru, deciding to die with him in the fire. Doro and Hyakkimaru escape through the hidden passage with the old man's help. For the first time, Hyakkimaru sees the sky and loves the feeling. A day later, Doro tells people about the island's treasure, promising to bring money to rebuild their homes. When he goes to tell Hyakkimaru about the money, he finds him gone. Hyakkimaru heads to Dego, seemingly to kill him for revenge, but changes his mind, realizing it would make him a monster too. He leaves Dego, who is remorseful and grieving his wife and son. Hyakkimaru sets off to explore life anew, while Doro is not upset, believing Hyakkimaru did the right thing. He begins his life anew, and everything returns to normal, with the world becoming better than before.